The baby wouldn't stop screaming that strange sound at the dog. When Sarah finally unplugged the air purifier and saw her son's face transform from agony to peace, her blood ran cold. For 3 weeks, she'd blamed her golden retriever for upsetting her child. She'd yelled at him, pushed him away, even considered rehoming him. But Max hadn't been the problem. He'd been trying to save her baby from something she couldn't even hear. What she discovered about that innocent-looking device sitting in her living room was so shocking, it made her question everything she thought she knew about keeping her child safe. Before watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another heart-gripping story like this one. Sarah Mitchell hadn't slept properly in 3 weeks. Dark circles carved shadows beneath her eyes, and her hands trembled as she poured her 4th coffee of the morning. Her 6-month-old son, Oliver, had transformed from a peaceful baby into something she barely recognized. "He's doing it again," her husband Tom said from the living room, his voice tight with exhaustion. Sarah rushed in to find Oliver in his playpen, his tiny face scrunched and red, making that sound. That horrible, high-pitched babble that wasn't quite crying, but wasn't normal baby talk either. It pierced through her skull like needles. And there was Max, their golden retriever, sitting 3 feet away. Just sitting, staring at Oliver with those deep brown eyes that looked almost human in their concern. "Get him out of here," Sarah snapped, gesturing at the dog. "Sarah, he's not doing anything. He's staring. It's freaking Oliver out. Can't you see that?" Tom ran a hand through his hair. "The dog was here first. Maybe Oliver's just going through a phase." "A phase?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Tom, listen to him. This only happens when Max is in the room." It wasn't entirely true, but exhaustion had a way of reshaping reality. The babbling happened most intensely in the living room. Yes, but Sarah had convinced herself it was because Max spent most of his time there. The dog had become her scapegoat, the visible target for her invisible frustration. Tom grabbed Max's collar gently. "Come on, boy, let's go outside." The moment the dog left, Oliver's strange babbling softened slightly, but didn't stop. Sarah lifted him from the playpen, bouncing him against her shoulder. "Shh, baby, shh, Mama's here." But even pressed against her chest, Oliver continued that repetitive, piercing sound. His little hands grabbed at her hair, pulling hard enough to make her wince. The new air purifier hummed silently in the corner, its blue light glowing like a promise of clean, healthy air. Sarah had spent $200 on it after reading articles about infant respiratory health. It was supposed to be completely silent, top-of-the-line technology. She'd placed it in the living room where Oliver spent most of his day. "Maybe we should call the pediatrician again," Tom suggested, returning without Max. "We've been 3 times. They say he's perfectly healthy." Sarah's voice broke. "I'm losing my mind, Tom. I can't do this anymore." That night, Sarah lay awake, listening to Oliver's monitor. Even in his nursery, away from the living room, he seemed restless. But the worst episodes, the ones that made her want to scream into a pillow, always happened downstairs. And Max. God, Max had become a problem she didn't know how to solve. The dog who'd been her companion for 5 years, who'd slept at the foot of her bed and greeted her with pure joy every single day, now felt like an intruder. Every time Oliver started that babbling, there was Max, sitting close, watching with that unsettling intensity. "He's jealous," Sarah's mother had said during her last visit. "Dogs can get territorial when a baby arrives." But Max had never shown aggression, never growled or snapped. He just watched, and somehow that felt worse. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon. Sarah had Oliver on a blanket for tummy time. The baby was doing it again, that high-pitched, repetitive babble that made her teeth ache. Max padded into the room and lay down beside the blanket, his massive head resting on his paws, eyes fixed on Oliver. "No," Sarah said sharply. "Max, out." The dog didn't move. His tail didn't wag. He just kept staring at Oliver with that look of deep, almost human concern. Oliver's babbling intensified, his little face turning red with effort. "Max, out! Now!" Sarah's voice rose to a shout. The dog finally stood, but instead of leaving, he moved closer to Oliver. He nudged the baby's side gently with his nose, then looked up at Sarah and back to Oliver and back to Sarah. Something inside her snapped. "Get away from him." She grabbed Max's collar and yanked him backward. The dog yelped, more from surprise than pain, and Sarah immediately felt sick with guilt. But the anger was stronger. Tom! Tom! Her husband came running from his home office upstairs. What? What happened? I can't do this anymore. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. The dog has to go. He's obsessed with Oliver. It's not healthy. It's not safe. Sarah, he didn't do anything. He won't leave him alone. Every time Oliver makes that sound, Max is right there, hovering, staring. What if he snaps? What if one day he decides Oliver is a threat? Tom looked at Max, who'd retreated to the corner, head low, tail tucked. He's never shown any aggression. I don't care. I want him gone. My sister will take him, just for a while, until we figure out what's wrong with Oliver. Tom opened his mouth to argue, but the exhaustion in his wife's eyes stopped him. Okay, let me call her. As Tom pulled out his phone, Sarah sank onto the couch, a mouth, Oliver still in her arms, still making that horrible sound. Max watched from the corner, and for just a moment, Sarah could have sworn she saw something like heartbreak in those brown eyes. Then Oliver's babbling reached a pitch that felt like it was splitting her skull open. Sarah stood abruptly, pacing with her son, trying to soothe him, trying to understand. She walked past the bookshelf, past the coffee table, past the air purifier with its peaceful blue glow. She stopped. Something in her peripheral vision had changed. Max had stood up. The dog wasn't looking at Oliver anymore. He was looking at the air purifier. Sarah turned to follow his gaze. The device sat there, innocent and modern, promising health and wellness. Max took a step toward it, then looked back at Sarah, then at the purifier again. Tom, Sarah said slowly. Tom, look at this. Her husband came over, phone still in hand. What? Max? He's staring at the air purifier. So? Sarah's mind raced. Oliver's babbling only happened in the living room. Max's strange behavior only happened in the living room. The air purifier was only in the living room. When did we get that? She asked. 3 weeks ago. You ordered it after. Tom's eyes widened. 3 weeks ago. Sarah's hands started to shake. 3 weeks. Oliver had been making that sound for exactly 3 weeks. She walked over to the air purifier. Oliver still pressed against her shoulder, still making that piercing babble. Max followed her, his whole body tense, focused on the device. What are you doing? Tom asked. I don't know. Sarah reached down and unplugged the air purifier. The blue light died, and Oliver went silent, completely, utterly silent. For a moment, Sarah thought her heart had stopped. Then Oliver giggled, a normal, beautiful baby giggle. He reached for her face with his tiny hands, cooing softly, all the tension gone from his little body. Oh my God, Sarah whispered. Max's tail began to wag. The dog approached and gently licked Oliver's foot, and the baby laughed. Actually laughed. Sarah's knees buckled. Tom caught her, taking Oliver from her arms. What just happened? With trembling fingers, Sarah pulled out her phone and typed, "Silent air purifier high-pitched noise baby." The search results loaded, and her vision blurred with tears. High-frequency emissions in consumer air purifiers, read the first article. While marketed as silent, many air purifiers emit high-frequency sounds inaudible to most adults, but potentially irritating or even painful to infants and animals with sensitive hearing. Oh God, Sarah breathed. Oh God, Tom, I've been torturing him. She scrolled frantically through more results. Forums full of parents describing the exact same thing. Babies crying inconsolably near certain devices. Dogs acting strangely. The sound frequency was typically between 18 to 20 kilohertz, above the hearing range of most adults over 30, but crystal clear and agonizing to babies and pets. He couldn't tell me, Sarah sobbed. He couldn't tell me it was hurting him, so he just kept making that sound. And Max. Her voice broke completely. Max could hear it too. He wasn't upset with Oliver. He was trying to show me. He was trying to protect him. Tom plugged the air purifier back in, and within seconds, Oliver's face scrunched up. The babbling started again. Max immediately stopped wagging his tail and sat down, staring at the baby with that same look of deep concern. Tom yanked the plug out. Oliver quieted instantly. 3 weeks, Sarah whispered. I blamed Max for 3 weeks. I was going to send him away. I grabbed his collar and yelled at him, and he was just trying to help. She slid down to the floor, and Max approached cautiously. Sarah wrapped her arms around the dog's neck, burying her face in his fur. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Max's tail wagged slowly, and he licked her cheek. No judgment, no resentment, just pure, unconditional forgiveness. Tom sat beside them, Oliver now calm and happy in his arms. How did we not figure this out sooner? Because I couldn't hear it. We couldn't hear it, but they could. Sarah pulled back to look at Max. You were sharing his distress. You were trying to tell me something was wrong, and I thought you were the problem. She thought about all those moments. Max sitting beside Oliver, staring. Not at the baby, she realized now, but past him. Toward the source of the pain. The dog nudging Oliver, then looking at Sarah, trying to communicate in the only way he could. The way Max had stared at the air purifier in those final moments, practically begging her to understand. Dogs can hear frequencies up to 45 kilohertz, Sarah read from her phone, her voice shaking. They experience sounds we can't even imagine. And infants under 1 year old have significantly more sensitive hearing than adults. Tom's face had gone pale. We were poisoning our own son with something we thought would help him. Sarah looked at the sleek, expensive air purifier, now unplugged and harmless in the corner. Such an innocent-looking thing. Recommended by parenting blogs and health websites. 5-star reviews. A modern solution to invisible threats. Except it had become the threat. I need to post about this, Sarah said, wiping her eyes. Other parents need to know. How many babies are suffering right now because their parents bought the same device? That evening, after Oliver was peacefully asleep in his crib, Sarah found Max lying in his usual spot in the living room. She sat beside him on the floor, running her hands through his golden fur. I almost gave you away, she whispered. I almost punished you for trying to save him. Max rested his head in her lap, and Sarah felt the tears come again. How close had she come to making an irreversible mistake? How many nights had Max endured that painful frequency, trying to alert her, only to be pushed away and blamed? You're a good boy, she said, her voice thick. The best boy. And I'm so sorry I didn't listen. Tom joined them, sitting on Max's other side. The reviews online, he said quietly. Hundreds of 5-star reviews from people who don't have babies or pets. They have no idea what this thing actually does. Sarah had already drafted her post for every parenting forum she could find. A warning. A confession. A plea for other parents to check their devices, to watch their pets, to understand that sometimes the solution we bring into our homes is the problem we can't see. The next morning, Sarah took the air purifier to the garage and put it in a box marked for return. She stood there for a moment, thinking about all the invisible dangers that surrounded them every day. Chemicals in cleaning products, frequencies in electronics, threats that hid behind promises of safety and health. Oliver babbled from his playpen, normal happy sounds now, and Max lay beside him, tail wagging gently. The dog's vigil had ended, but his position as guardian remained. Sarah watched them together, her son and her dog, and felt something shift in her understanding of the world. She'd been so certain she knew what was best, so sure she could identify threats and eliminate them. But wisdom, real wisdom, sometimes came from the most unexpected sources. Sometimes the line between safety and danger is invisible to those who think they see everything. Sometimes protection comes not from what we purchase or control, but from what we're humble enough to hear. Max hadn't been confused or jealous or territorial. He'd been the only one in the house paying attention to what mattered, trying desperately to communicate a truth that existed beyond human perception. And Sarah had almost silenced him forever. The things we cannot hear can hurt us most. But if we're lucky, we share our lives with those who can hear what we cannot, see what we miss, and love us enough to keep trying, even when we push them away. If this story opened your eyes to the invisible dangers that might be hiding in your own home, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Share it with friends and family who have babies or pets, because sometimes the guardian angel we need doesn't speak our language, but that doesn't make their warning any less real.